I mean, apart from the fact I can't believe it's 15 years since you won the X Factor, where has that time gone? I wanted to know if you were always musical. When did everyone in your family go, oh yeah, she's the singer?
Well, my dad always tells me that it was when I was in the back of his car, like I don't think I could talk yet, so I must have been about 2, and I just started singing along to the radio. I think it was like, I don't know, maybe it was Soul to Soul or something like that, some kind of soul song. And I was just singing along in the back, and he would turn down the music and I would just keep singing, and then he'd turn it up and then he'd turn it down to see if I was singing along still. And he saw that I could sing kind of in tune to what was going on. And I think then my parents were like, oh, maybe we should, give her some music lessons. She might like it. And that was it.
You were that young as well.
Yeah. I was really young. Yeah.
Gosh, that's amazing. And then obviously then it paid off because you kind of kept singing. Did you know that you were going to be a singer? Did you feel like you wanted to?
Yeah, I really didn't see anything else for myself. So I'm kind of lucky it worked out, because I knew I always wanted to be a singer. I always wanted to be surrounded by music. We had a studio at the house, and like my auntie was a really good singer, and I learned a lot from her actually, and watching her in the studio. So we had like a little home setup, and my dad was a DJ, so I had quite a musical family and upbringing. And I would watch her coming into the studio, and she would record demos, and then I started to want to record demos. So a lot of it was, influenced by the environment that I grew up in.
And when was it that you did first record a demo? Because I think it was way before X Factor, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I've been recording. We had like a setup in the closet of our house from when I was a baby, because my dad had all his vinyls and records and stuff. And then I kind of set up like something in my garden, like a little shed kind of situation at one point. So I think I must have recorded my first song. I think it might have been Wind Beneath My Wings. And I think it was maybe like 9 or 10 or something like that.
Is that like Beaches had been out, or you'd seen it or something?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And I was like obsessed with that song. It would always make me cry, like this 9-year-old crying at Wind Beneath My Wings. Yeah.
Although the thing is, that's a tough song. I mean, not that I can sing, but I'm assuming it's a tough song to sing for anyone, let alone a 9-year-old.
It's funny because I was always really drawn to really emotional songs, even from a really young age, from like Olita Adams. She wrote a song about her husband passing away, I think it was, or someone passed away. And there was this song, and I just like felt drawn to it. I wanted to sing it. And I feel like those really deeply emotional songs for some reason really connected with me as a child when I was younger. So I've just always been drawn to those kind of big emotional ballads.
Yeah. So then in that case, what was your first single? Because we all remember the first single we got, the first album we got. What were yours?
Mine was Spice World.
Was it?
I was 10 years old. My mum gave me some pocket money, and I remember it was the first CD that I went out and bought with my own money. And it was Spice World. I was obsessed with Mel B, and obsessed with the Spice Girls. And I was 10 years old and got Spice World. Yeah.
Did you end up going to see them? Was that one of your first gigs that you went to see?
Do you know what? I never went to see them. My first concert wasn't until I was 16 or 17. Yeah.
Who was that?
Alicia Keys.
Oh my God, this is good. That's really cool.
Oh, it was so fantastic. And it's funny, I don't know why I never went to see anything before then, but obviously I was 16, I went on my own, and she was just spectacular. She was better, she sounded better than the record, which blew me away because the record sounded so good. I think it was Songs in A Minor was the album. And Falling had, you know, just been huge everywhere. And yeah, this young woman came out, sat on the piano and was just playing and singing, and it was just so incredible. So that was my first concert experience.
Oh wow. I mean, this is a good start. But then by this time, were you already at the BRIT School?
Oh yeah, I was going to say that actually. My first kind of big show was probably when I went to the Brits. And I went there, I think when I was around 15. And yeah, when you're at the BRIT School, you get to go and see, be in the audience at the BRIT show. So that was huge as well.
Yeah. Because that's the kind of thing when you're growing up, everyone, that's an appointment to view. Everyone stays in that night, watches the Brits, then goes to school the next day and talks about it. So to go, oh my goodness, that would have been amazing.
Oh, we were just so excited. I remember like we all got dressed up and we went on coaches. And I think that the thing I remember most about it is I think Five performed and something like they jumped into the audience. That's what I remember about it. But it was so fun.
It must be really strange having now been at events like the Brits yourself, but you're seeing it from a completely different angle. Do you think that when you were younger and you went when you were 15, do you think it was much more exciting then? Or do you think it's more exciting going as an artist?
Oh, I mean, I love being in the audience and watching a show. I really do. I love going to shows and concerts, but I always feel like something's missing when I'm in the audience because I love to be on stage. So it's weird. It's just such a different feeling to being on stage than being an audience member, as a musician. But yeah, I just remember having so much fun at that show. And then years later, I got to perform on the Brit stage, which was the most insane experience. And I just remember seeing the Brit School students in the audience, and I was one of them. So it was really just such a surreal experience.
I hadn't realized that when you were at the Brit schools, you had very good class. I mean, am I right in saying in your year there are quite a few other people that have gone on to be successful too?
Yeah. So I was in school with Katie Melua was in my class. Kelly Lee, who's doing so amazing. She's, you know, vocaled some of the biggest dance songs in the UK. Like everyone knows her voice now. And she's a great songwriter. And Luke from the Kooks, the front man, he was in my class as well. So I had great people around me to learn from, and it was a very eclectic mix as well. All kinds of music, indie, alternative, rock, soul, R&B, like it was a lot. So it was a really cool experience to have, you know, being surrounded by such different musical tastes.
Yeah, no, I bet. So then in that case, if you have been to somewhere like that, do they give you a taster of you performing? I mean, is that when you first get on stage when you're there? Like it's not going to be, you know, like some musicians, their first bit in front of an audience is in a scummy pub singing to a few people, but I presume you did it a bit more grander.
Oh no, I definitely sang in pubs, karaoke competitions. Like that was what I was doing gigs from probably like 12. I would go and do like little local competitions, and local little venues. Like I did the Hackney Empire when I was 13. I remember that was actually amazing because it's a beautiful venue, but it was very much surrounded by my local community. And then I remember I won that show, and then I went on just gigging. So as well as with the Brits, like our performances weren't really, I didn't do any performances outside of school. All of our performances were in the school theatres. And then after that, I went on gigging and yeah, did a lot of like pubs and those kind of venues as well.
Right. But then alongside all of that, did you do other jobs? I mean, what was your first actual job?
My first job was working in my dad's clothing store.
Okay.
When I was like 14. I'm sure he was paying me like £2, like something really, really cheap. Yeah, so that's where I worked first when I was 14. And then I got a job at Pizza Hut when I was 16. So
Okay.
16 or 17. So as soon as I left school, that's what I was doing to kind of support then being able to go and record demos and to gig and stuff.
Oh wow. I mean, it's amazing that you were doing so much way, way, way before X Factor, which was when you were 21 as well, wasn't it? Because I watched a clip before chatting to you. I just wanted to remind myself of your audition. And the voiceover goes, here she is, 21-year-old receptionist, Leona Lewis. And then you and I was like, it's just so, it feels really alien to hear someone describe you as that.
I know. And it's I think the thing is with the show, you kind of, yeah, like everyone kind of met me at 21, but didn't really know what my background was. And yeah, it is funny, yeah, like me walking into the room and being described as that, yeah.
But you'd recorded music first. How did it feel to first go into studio? I mean, is it daunting for someone the first time they stand in front of a mic and officially to record a song?
I think because I had a setup at home for so long, I was really used to working in the studio and working with equipment as well. So I knew at the time we were using a software called Cubase. And so I knew all about Cubase. I learned a bit about the desk. So I kind of already knew the studio. It was definitely daunting going, this was a home setup with what we could afford. And then after being in the X Factor, then I went into big studios that like crazy artists had performed in and recorded their music. And I was just kind of like, oh my God, what am I doing here? But yeah, that was a little bit daunting, going into those big, massive rooms that had a lot of history. Like I remember I recorded a live version of Run at Abbey Road. And that was like insane for me because there's so much history there. So yeah, things like that, I definitely kind of get kind of excited by, I guess.
Yeah, oh gosh, I'm not surprised. That's amazing, isn't it? And when you think back as well, I know that we saw you in that audition process. And then what is it like to perform when it goes live? I mean, I know you've done loads of live telly and there's all these things that you do before because you have all these interviews. But when you suddenly go live performing on your first live show, it's huge as well. X Factor was the big Saturday night show. Everyone stayed in, everyone was watching it. What was that like?
It's funny because I had done a few karaoke competitions before in the run up to that. So it's kind of weirdly in my stride with that kind of competition. But it's still every week I was really nervous because I really, really wanted to win and I really wanted to get the record deal. That was my main goal. Like I really, really wanted a record deal. So it was definitely nerve-wracking for sure. Every week I'd be crying. I'm gonna get kicked out this week. But it was, yeah, I mean, it's so different, like obviously doing little shows in small venues and then going to a TV show where there are cameras and also you're asked to like look at the cameras at certain points and remember this and remember that. So there's a lot that you have to kind of take on. And it took me, I remember a while, like a few shows to like really feel comfortable. And then kind of really be able to just really be in the moment with what I was doing and the performance.
Yeah, there's when I've spoken to quite a few musicians as well about this, and they might have, for them, they didn't do X Factor, but Top of the Pops would have been their big
Yeah.
debut on live television, you know, performing to everyone at home. Did you ever do that, or had it moved on by then?
Yeah, I did. I think I did the last one, or one of the last ones, the Top of the Pops Christmas, after I won X Factor. So
Okay.
I performed a moment like this.
Oh, because then you're not only performing your song in front of loads of people, but you're also with your music peers, I guess. You're with other people. And that must be quite exciting to be performing on the same bill as big names.
Yeah, that was really cool. And also on the show, there was like big names that came through and performed. I remember I performed with Take That. I met Tony Bennett, who kind of mentored me a bit, Lionel Richie. So those were crazy experiences, actually, to get to kind of work with those people. But yeah, Top of the Pops was really, I was really nervous, actually, because it was the one of the first times I think I was performing my single. So that was kind of crazy.
Yeah. And when you obviously then went on and you won X Factor, which was amazing. And I think you got something, am I right in saying, did you get like 60% of the vote when on that final night? I have got a stat. I know that you're gonna, yeah, 60% of the votes, they say, were for you to win on that night, which is brilliant, obviously. I don't know, do you get any time to yourself? When was the first time you actually were able to sit back and relax and think, gosh, I've just won this, I've got a record deal, things are going really well?
No, like literally as soon as I won the show, it was like full pelt, like just in the studio. I was in the studio for a year, like every day. I was promoing, touring, like for a good few years after that, like back to back to back to back. It was mad. It was so busy. But I was just so like, this is what I wanted for such a long time. This is what I wanted to do. I wanted to have an album. I wanted a deal to be able to make the album that I wanted to make. So yeah, it was mad after I won.
Yeah. And also, I suppose it's different because a lot of artists will kind of release a single or release an album, and eventually they might hear their song on the radio and they might be spotted in the street and they kind of go, okay, I've made it. But for you, everyone was recognizing you and your music was being played from the very start. So you kind of made it immediately, which was brilliant.
Yeah, it was very crazy after the show because obviously, especially at that time, I felt like everyone was watching it. So literally from probably my first audition, I was being recognized in the street, which was so wild because no one prepares you for that. Even when you're doing the show, like no one says, by the way, when you go home, like it's going to be crazy. You're not prepared for it. So I kind of had to just prepare myself almost, or just be prepared in the moment when it was happening.
Yeah. So when you started recording your own material after that, did you go over to the States? Is that when you went?
Yeah. So I recorded between London, Sweden, and the US. So I was kind of in all three for that next year, just kind of dotting around to where the producers and different writers were.
Yeah. I mean, because basically from when you won right through to that year, when you, between then and releasing your next single, you'd had the Christmas number one, you'd had a huge, I mean, honestly, I keep on writing all these stats down because it's just astonishing all the numbers. When you, I literally now can't find any of them. But anyway, it was downloaded. Hang on, here we go. A Moment Like This broke a world record, was downloaded over 50,000 times in less than 30 minutes. And it was number one, obviously. And then obviously you talked about how things went wild. When did you get involved? Or was it from the start you got involved with writing music as well? When did you first start writing?
So I've always been a songwriter. That's, kind of just something that I did from like 14, 15, I was writing. And I actually recorded an album before I won the show. And I remember I did an EPK and, had little launch and stuff. So I've always been a writer, and I always knew that I wanted to obviously like continue that. So when I did the show, your single has to be released straight away. So I did a cover of Moment Like This, which is just a song that I love. And Kelly Clarkson, actually, I think she, a couple of years before, released that when she won.
Right.
So I did a version of that. And then, yeah, pretty much just got straight in the studio, straight into writing. And I was the first artist that they gave that amount of time to actually create the record that I wanted to create. So I got like a year and a bit to really get in the studio and write.
And did you team up with other writers? I mean, do you go in and you meet and yeah?
Yeah. And I love collaborating with people. So there was a team of writers that came to a showcase that I did. So I sang some of my favorite songs. And then I met different writers and just kind of saw who I wanted to collaborate with. And some of them wrote songs for me. Some of them I wrote with. So it was kind of definitely a collaborative effort.
So then how did Bleeding Love come about? When did you work on that one? When did you decide that was the one that you were going to release next?
So Bleeding Love was actually, I'd pretty much wrapped up my album, and Bleeding Love was sent kind of late. And it was sung by a guy, and it was quite a rough demo. And I just loved the chorus, and it just sounded really different from anything I'd heard before. And I love Prince, and it sounded kind of Princey. So I contacted the Ryan Tedder, who wrote the song, with Jesse, who sang the song. And I said, I love this song. Can I work on it with you? And they were like, yeah, 100%. Like we definitely see you singing this song. So I went in and sang it, and they kind of tailored it to my style of it, because it's very different from how he sung it. And yeah, I just knew that this was the first song that needed to come out. But it was also scary because it was really different, and I thought maybe people would expect like a kind of more Moment Like This ballady thing. So I was also nervous for some reason to release it, I remember, but I was so excited because I loved the song so much.
Oh my goodness, the song was so big. I remember it so well. In fact, I remember working on GMTV at the time and them sending a film crew in LA out and about in the streets and asking people about Bleeding Love and about you. And everyone knew the song and everyone wanted to have a go at singing it. And it was amazing. But it was huge on both sides of the Atlantic. It was so huge. How was that feeling for you? It must have been amazing.
Yeah, it was really, again, like so incredible, because I think at that time where music was, there was quite a big gap between the UK and the US in terms of music. And I do remember one statistic was that this is the first time a British artist had got a #1 since the 80s in America. So it was huge, and I felt as a Brit really, really proud of that. And to be able to, have success there and success at home was just something that was really amazing for me. So yeah, it's so cool, yeah, that everyone kind of knew the song, and I didn't expect it to fly like that at all.
Oh, it was huge. It was so big. Do you know what I find amazing is astonishing actually is that how long have you lived in LA for now?
I've had a place here for about 8 years.
And your accent, you still sound like you are from Britain.
I mean, I am from Britain and I'm always back and forth. Like that's one thing I think people might feel because maybe they see me here so much. But I'm home, so apart from this year, which has been so sad. I haven't been home since September. But yeah, I'm back so often. Obviously, all my family are Brit. So yeah.
If you ever have a hint of an accent, do they kind of like quickly tell you to lose it?
I haven't had that yet, but who knows?
Yeah, that's all, because there's so many people move out to States, and within a year they've turned all American. So that's what I was impressed with.
No, and I think here as well is, especially in LA, is so diverse and multicultural, and there are so many Brits here, and Australia, that there's a lot of that it's not just Americans as well, that I surround myself with a lot of Brits here.
Right. And if you look back at everything you've done, which has been there's been so much, and I mean, not only X Factor, not only being number one in America and in the UK, which would put you on a huge platform in both countries, but also then there was the Olympics, which you ended up performing at the closing ceremony. Is that the biggest audience, or is there something bigger than the Olympics that you've performed at?
In terms of how many people actually viewed it, that was definitely the biggest. I think it was like it was in the billions.
Oh my gosh.
Kind of crazy that many people tuned in. So that was the biggest in terms of how many people viewed it. But I guess my tour, like for me, just because it was just me and my tour, I did the O2, which was so cool. I've played there. And that was incredible. It was a whole show. And for me, that was huge. It was so huge.
How involved do you get when you have your show like that? It's your name, you're the headline performer. How involved do you get on the look and the style and what the stage is going to be like?
I get a bit obsessed. Like, I get obsessed with every single detail. And usually I'll have a creative director that I work with that, helps kind of carve out the vision. But I get so obsessed from everything, obviously set list, but then I get obsessed about the lighting and costumes and band, and yeah, I get kind of crazy about it.
Oh my goodness, I'm not surprised. Well, it's kind of like it's your name and it's you that's up there. So you want it to be very much your thing. Do you you're performing November, December with Gary as well. Is Gary Barlow, have you been friends with him since you performed with him on X Factor?
Yeah, so we've always maintained like a contact, and he's just always been so lovely, and he's a great songwriter as well. So just to kind of have that contact is so great, and we kind of send songs back and forth as well. But he's just always been really supportive and lovely. And so when the chance came for me to do the tour, I was like 100%, just because he's a great guy.
Yeah. No, he is great. It'll be nice to get you back over here as well. When's the first time you are going to be touring yourself again?
Probably, actually, I don't want to say anything yet, but I'm
okay. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Because I know that you've got your Christmas album, which is really exciting. And so basically you've taken the album that you released in 2013 and you've given it a bit of a magic wand makeover and done a few changes. What's different about it?
Yeah. So I did a little, Christmas shush on the Christmas record. And because of like the year that we've been through, and last year was it was the first time I didn't spend Christmas with my family because I couldn't come home. And I just felt like this year I wanted to do something special. I wanted to perform again and be out there. And then obviously the Gary tour came along. So I was like, yes. And I'd had an idea to kind of repackage the Christmas album at some point, and I just felt this was the right time. So there's a couple of new songs on there, and where we have some vinyls out as well, which is great. So yeah, it's just a whole kind of repackage.
Oh, very nice indeed. Okay, so we will look forward to hearing that when all the Christmas music starts playing yet again. When you released your first Christmas single, did you expect to then be hearing it every Christmas from now on forevermore?
No, again, I wanted to do a Christmas album that was kind of nostalgic and a throwback to what I would listen to at Christmas. So like the Stevie records and the Phil Spector album, Darlene Love. And I wanted to do something like that. And in my mind, I didn't really think, oh, it's going to come back every year. I hope that it would. That would be amazing. And yeah, it's kind of now starting to stand the test of time, which I love. And because the songs kind of sound classic, it works, you know, so it's cool. I get to come and like perform them every year. It's nice for me.
I think that every artist wants to have a huge Christmas song. I mean, if you look at all the ones, you know, the Slades and the Wizards, the Hand Aid, everything, it's played so much every year.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I released my Christmas album, there had been a kind of a lull in new Christmas songs. There wasn't really much, people weren't really releasing new ones. And so it was a funny timing when I released it, because I don't think there was anything else that was kind of coming through. So it was good timing for me, for sure.
Oh, fabulous. Well, look, really, really, really can't wait to see you on tour with Gary. Christmas with Love, the album is out for Christmas as well. So that's a great album too. So listen, good luck with everything. Here's to 2021 ending well, and to a brilliant 2022 for you as well.
Thank you so much.
It's been lovely having you. Thank you so much.
Great to you.
All right, and you too. Bye bye. Thank you.